to Poetry Lockdown. We're at day 165, and I would like to dedicate today's Poetry Lockdown to one of my old students, David Ramos, who tragically died just 2 days ago. Just graduated from Cristo Rey in 2020, so we in the Cristo Rey community are deeply mourning his loss. And I was privileged to teach him as a junior. David was just a real light. I wrote that in my Facebook post yesterday. Real light in my life. I remember I returned to Cristo Rey for a couple of years away. Christine and I were in Chicago, and that year I remember being nervous about coming back and not knowing this whole big group of junior students. And he was a student who always made me feel welcome every day that I walked into the room. Just a joy-filled, funny, had a great sense of humor person, and he was somebody who just loved learning. So I dedicate this poem to David. He wasn't like a huge fan of poetry or anything like that, but his style as a communicator was just always generous, open, and direct. And this poet I'm going to read today, absolutely like that as well. If you don't know Martin Espada's work, I really recommend him. This book's called The Republic of Poetry, and I want to do with this Poetry Lockdown something I've done with a number of them, which is get different poets talking to each other. And this poem actually is literally doing that. So earlier in the lockdown, maybe probably 3 months ago, I read a poem. I actually recited a poem from memory, and I'll do it again because it's really short, by a poet who I really admire, Robert Creeley. It is the last poem that he wrote before he died at age 80. The poem's called Old Story. I'm going to recite it because Martin Espada is actually talking back to that exact poem. So here we go. I'm going to go from memory again. This is the first poem. It's really short. It leads into Espada's poem. Old Story by Robert Creeley. One bell wouldn't ring loud enough, so they beat that bell to hell, Max, with an axe, to show it who's boss. Me, I dreamt I dwelt in some place one could relax. But I was wrong. You got a song, man? Sing it. You got a bell, man? Ring it. So that was Robert Creeley, Old Story. Now let me read you Martin Espada's poem, You Got a Song, Man, which is obviously referring to the poem from Creeley, and it's dedicated. For Robert Creeley, 1926 to 2005. You told me the son of Acton's town nurse would never cross the border into Concord, where the revolution left great houses standing on Main Street. Yet we crossed into Concord, walking through Sleepy Hollow Cemetery to greet Thoreau, his stone stamped with the word Henry, jutting like a gray thumbnail down the path from Emerson and his boulder of granite. We remembered Henry's night in jail, refusing tax for the Mexican War, and I could see you hunched with him, loaning Henry a cigarette, explaining the perpetual wink of your eye lost after the windshield burst in your boyhood face. When Emerson arrived to ask what you and Henry were doing in there, you would say, "You got a song, man? Sing it. You got a bell, man? Ring it." You hurried off to Henry in his cell before the trees could bring their flowers back to Sleepy Hollow. You sent your last letter months ago about the poems you could not write. No words to sing when the president swears that God breathes the psalms of armies in his ears. And flags twirl by the millions to fascinate us like dogs at the dinner table. You apologized for what you could not say. As if the words were missing teeth you searched for with your tongue, and then a poem flashed across the page. Breaking news of music, interrupting news of war. You got a song, man, sing it. You got a bell, man, ring it. Today, you died 2,000 miles from Sleepy Hollow, somewhere near the border with Mexico, the territory Thoreau wandered only in jailhouse sleep. Your lungs folded their wings in a land of drought and barbed wire, boxcars swaying intoxicated at 4 a.m., and unexplained lights hovering in the desert. You said, "There's a lot of places out there, friend." So you would go, smuggling a suitcase of words across every border carved by the heel of map makers or conquerors, because you had an all-night conversation with the world, hearing the beat of unsung poems in every voice, visiting the haunted rooms in every face. Drive, you said, because poets must bring the news to the next town. You got a song, man, sing it. You got a bell, man, ring it. What a poem, Martina Espada. A conversation across time and space to someone who has passed away. It moves me immensely. I love that we're visiting Thoreau's grave at the start of the poem. You know, Thoreau, the man of civil disobedience. And then we're also moving to righteous indignation at an unjust war. Pretty sure that's the war in Iraq, and that's Bush we're talking about, who feels like God's breathing the psalms of armies in his ear. And then we go back to Creeley passing away. I love that Creeley's words are woven into the poem itself. I don't have a lot of words to say. Grieving for you, David Ramos. It was a privilege to teach you. I hope this is some small way of honoring you. Thank you all for tuning in, and I hope you have a great rest of your day and a good rest of your week. Peace to you all.